For Hanukkah. I'd like to pick up in the mitzvah of Avelus from where we left off last week. The Shita is that the mitzvah of Kohanim to Metame Lekrovihem, yטמא, and in Minyan HaMitzvos, his opinion is that Avelus is part of this mitzvah, and that's the reason why the Kohen's Metame, because that's kilu part of the Avelus, the key Avelus in the Tumah, and not only in Avelus, Yom Rishon is the Raisa. And then he continues, and the next proof or whatever, Ubebei Omru, B'moy Cotton, Yedala Mebeis, Ovel Eino Noyeg Avelus Beregel. And Ovel is not Noyeg Avelus Beregel. I Avelus the Meikora. Avelus Meikora means Avelus which started before Yontif. In other words, the Kfur was before Yontif. Avelus started with Yontif. I Avelus the Meikora who Osi Aseh Drabim. That means the mitzvah of Simchas Yontif, v'doch Aseh Yochid. Okay. So it means that there's a slight problem over here. So it means that the Ram is learning, Hine kva hisboye shechiv avelus d'oraisa. That we knew also before, but it's also working with this because the mitzvah of Simcha, which is a deraisa, is the Ramshita in Mitzvah Nun Daled, that Simcha of Shal Dvorim is a deraisa, and that's Doiche, the mitzvah of Avelus V'Yochid, which is also a deraisa. That's the way it works. That's what Ram's learning. And before we also proved that Avelus is deraisa from the Gemara in Brachos, that what? That the Gemara says that Aninus Laila Rishona is the Rabbanon, but it means that the Aninus and the Avelus of that day is a deraisa. So the Ram didn't have to prove that, but he's proving it again. But he adds another part of the sentence. Ushihi mitzaseh. We knew that there was Avelus, we didn't know it was mitzaseh. And how do you know it's mitzaseh? Because it says that Osi is Avelus to make Korah, Osi Aseh Drabim, V'doch Aseh Diochas, so mitzaseh. So that's what he says, mitzaseh. So that's what the Ram is proving. The problem is, how do you have Avelus to make Korah? Because if Avelus Yom Rishon is the Raisa, and the night afterwards is the Rabbanon, so the case doesn't exist. Because Avelus the Meikora, there's no Aseh, the Yochid, that night. It's only the Rabbanon. So the Rif is the first person to deal with this question. The Rif asks this question in Brachos, and that's Sugya, Vanidus Laila Rishayna. And he holds that Avelus Yom Rishon is the Reis, but not at night. So he says, how can you have Avelus to make Korah, which is the Reisa? Because the days ended. Avelus the Reisa is only Yom Shemes, B'oisei Yom, Im Meis, B'oisei Yom Shemaschilo Avelus, so it means the Yom HaMisa and the Tchilas Avelus are the same day, because the Kfur is also that day, so that's a deraisa. But if the Kov is Nikba Erev Yontiv and the Avelus started already, Lai Sheni is not a deraisa, because Yom Sheni Shel Avelus. So the Rif answers, okay, the Rif answers the following. The Rif answers that Avelus Laila is the Rabbonon, according to the Mandioma, that Aninas Laila is the Rabbonon, that the Laila after the Yom is not Nitfas. And that's what the Sugi and Brachas is working with. But he says that the Sugi and Moy Cotton is working that Aninas of the night after the Kvur is a deraisa, means that we Isa of Achilles Kochim that night, and Memela the Avelis is also a deraisa. The night after the Yom HaMisa. So therefore, you have an option of the Simchas Yontiv is Doicha Avelis deraisa B'Laila. If the Kov is Mason Erev Yontiv, it's working according to that Mandioma. But we paskin that Anilas Laila is the Rabbonon. So in Mela, there's no possibility of Avelis deraisa, that Avelis may call and that it should be deraisa at night, because the Avelis is already finished. So maybe the Rambam learns like the Rif, that's this Gemara is going like that. We don't know. But whatever it is, the Ram clearly learns that that you see from the Gemara that is the Raisa. I guess the Rif says we don't pass like that. I guess the Ram learns like that. He doesn't. We have no clue how the Ram learns, but I assume it's something like that. Next. The Ram is being a raya that it's a mitzvah that Avel is the mitzvah say, because the Aseh the Rabim is doiche the mitzvah say the Yochid. The Avel is rak mitzvahs Aseh the Rabbonen. You don't need, I assume you don't need to say that it's Rabim and Yochid. You could have said that I say the Reis is Doich and I say the Rabbonim. The Gemara is explaining why. You get the impression that they're the same. That the Avelis and the Simchas Yontiv. So if Simchas Yontiv is the Reisa, the Avelis is also the Reisa. So why did the Gemara have to say, otherwise why did the Gemara have to say Yochid and Rabim? And it's only a Rambam l'shitosai that Simchas Yontif afilu b'zman is the Raisa. As the Ram says in Mitzvah Nun Daled, and the Rambam in Perek Zayin, I think it's Zayin, of Hilchos Yontif, that he says that Simchas, there's a Mitzvah Simcha b'zman hazeh. However, Tesis in Moed Cotton there says Simchas Yontiv Bisman is the Rabban because there's no Karbonis. So therefore it comes out that both the Avelus and the Mitzvah Simcha Rabbanon. So why should one be Derech the other? So you have to say that it's Yochid and Rabbim, that Simcha is Yontiv, which the Mitzvah Rabbim is Derech the Mitzvah Avelus, which is I say the Yochid. But both the Rabbanon. So that's another option. But if you hold that Simcha is a deraisa, you're locked into a position that Avelis is also a deraisa. Now, next. Now, we have to ask a question, or we should ask a question, that according to the Rambam here in Sefer HaMitzvos, that the source of the mitzvah velus is the mitzvah's tumah. So, a priori, you would have assumed that there's an equation. Wherever there's a mitzvah of metame, of the kohen to metame the kohen, the mitzvah velus there's a mitzvah velus deraisa, and wherever there's no mitzvah metame the kohen to a kohen, that there's no mitzvah metame the kohen, the velus will be derabbanan. That's what l'chayr you should have said. If you, that's only because you say the source of the mitzvah avelus is the mitzvah tumah. The problem is achaysa nesua. So it says ki besua me'amov yikra. It says it says that he shouldn't be lo lachaysa habsula shelo ish lo yitama, right? So one could have imagined that if nesua, who he's not metame to, maybe that is drabonon, and everything also would have been okay. That's also okay. However, the Rambam says that avelus in achisei hanesua is din teira, even though he's not metamelo. The Rambam in Hilchos Ovel, Perek Beis Haloch Aleph, Elu she'odom chayiv l's'abel Alehén, din teira, imoy v'oviv b'noi uvitoi, v'ochiv v'achisei mi'oviv, v'im hoyis achisei zo hanesua me'oviv, harihu mis'abel aleho. Harihu mis'abel oleho din teira. But achisei hanesua is not metamelo, as the Ram says in Perek Beis. That was Perek Beis Haloch Aleph Hilchos Ovel, and in Perek Beis Haloch Yudov Hilchos Ovel, achisei hanesua eino metamelo. Af al pi Shihi nesua l'kohen. I don't know what the alpha is. That's the shenema besula koyvelov asher lo hoysa leish. So it comes out there's a mitzvah of avelus and achoisei hanesua, but there's no mitzvah's tumah. But that's very odd because the Ram says that you derive the mitzvah of avelus and here in Sefer HaMitzvos from the mitzvah of tumah. And l'chayra, there's another difficulty. The Ram, you have to ask a question: how does he learn the Gemara in Moy Cotton on Chof Omen Aleph? Torah Abonim Kol Omu b'Pashas Kohanim Shekoy Mitame Lohen Ovel Misabel Leim. In other words, that wherever you're metame, the kohen, there is avails, exactly what we would have expected. See, everything's okay. The Ram made the problem. V'elu hein ishtoi ovi v'imoy ochiv v'achoisei b'noi ubitoi hosif aleim ochiv v'achoisei b'sula me'imoy v'achoisei nesua bein me'ovi bein me'imoy. So the sifu is achois in the sewer is not a din teira. It's only the rabbanon. That's a sifu. So the achus me'oviv is only the rabbanon. And achois in the sewer me'oviv in the Gemara, the is only the rabbanon. And the Rambam says, in other words, if the Rambam looked at the Gemara and said his whole shtickle Torah that you learn out of Vedas and Tum, everything would be okay. You know, the Gemara says that Achos L'Sur is the Rabbanon, and because the Tumah you're not metamen, Shalom Yisrael. The exact equation. The Rambam, who makes the equation, says that the Avelis on Achos and L'Sur is the Raisa, even though you're not metamen. The question is, how does the Rambam learn the more cotton? And it's not only the more cotton, is the Rambam himself, Minei Ubei, because the Rambam here at the mitzvah says that he's on metame to chamesh meitzah mitzvah. It means it's not ishtoi, and l'cheira he's not metame. The mitzvahs Aseh of tumah lekrobihem and avelis you're learning from the pasuk lo yitmah. So mamadashach. If since ma'achosim may av habesula is either you're matama, not matama. The question which we asked before, basically. Zaki mechalik. So the Lechem Mishnah asked this kasha. He says, Dvorim Tzmuyim Heim Kiven Dienu Matame Oleho Midin Torah Eich Is Abo Midin Torah V'Harei Lo Lamadnu Avelis Ela Mitumo Ukvar Tomo Ramban Zal Aleim V'Gam B'Einai Kol Odom Yifla. The Keren Moy Cotton. You should see Moy Cotton Chofom and Al Chofom and Beis they were maskal with so oid ledaktik. The question how it works. No, he says something. You see the Keren. You know, I want to say a similar thing, but you know, I can't say that I'm sure about it. So I'll say, look at the Keren, and if you like, whatever. Okay, say it. Next. So the Ram says, now it's the next sentence here. And he says, Avo, Biyoim Rishon Levad, that the whole Avelis Derais is only the first day. V'shar v'hashar me'ashiva yomim midrabanan. Okay, good. So, Derech Agav, he hasn't proven this. He hasn't proven this, and maybe it's a parenthetical remark. Or maybe he's going back to the Gemara Brachas that we said that the V'chvayis Boye Shavelus the Raisa and the Gemara says Laila is the Rabbanon, so maybe that's where he's proving that Avelis Yom Rishon is the Raisa, but not the rest. Basha Me'ashiva Yom the Rabbanon. But here the important part is like this. Ushafilu, this is a very important line now. Ushafilu הכהן ינהג אבלוס ביום ראשון, שאפילו הכהן ינהג אבלוס ביום ראשון? I don't understand what that means, because a kohen is different. Okay, we don't understand what that does. B'yom Rishon, v'yitame lekrovihem. So it says that even a kohen is misabel and yitame lekrovihem, right? So we don't understand that l'chera afilu, so l'chera that he's misabel, l'chera doesn't make any sense. That only that even a kohen is misabel. Because that doesn't make, because we're learning Avelis from Tumah. So if the kohen is not, it can't be afilu. The kohen is not the source. So l'chera she'afilu a kohen mis avelis is yinag avelis v'yom rishon uv'yitame lekrovihem. Is that's what is going on? So the chiddush is on Tumas Koivov, because mitzvah velus kolelis gam Tuma Koivim, as he said. But this creates problems, because what comes out, if this is correct, okay, I'm just saying it comes out that a kohen is metame to his koivov only on the first day, which is Yom HaMisa. Because what are we talking about? He's talking about Yom Rishon levad, v'shar hashiva yomim d'rabonon, v'shafilu ha'kohen yinag avelus b'yom rishon v'yitama l'koivov. So l'chera, that the kohen is misabel doesn't make any sense. He's not worse than any Israel, and he's the source. So it must be that he's metame b'yom rishon. But that's we don't find anyone who says such a thing. Just telling you, there's a big problem reading these lines. But if you read it the way it seems to go, that the tumas kohen lekrovihem is only on if the kvura is on Yom HaMisa. And it's only, so it comes out of the kavua is le'acha Yom HaMisa, maybe it shouldn't be metame. That's what it seems to be over here. The Meseches Smochos, Perek Dal and Alocha Zayin, Ad Moshe Metame Lohem, Rabbi Meir Oimer Kol Oisei Yom, Rabbi Shimon Oimer Ad Shlosh Yomim, Rabbi Yehuda Oimer Mishum Bitafon Ad Shista Magoyo, Umayse Shemes Shimon Ben Yehotzadok Belud Ubo Yochanan Ochiv Min Hagolil L'Tameloi Mi'acha Shenista Magolil L'Tamei Ubo V'Sholoch HaChomim V'Yomu Al Yitame Poscho Es HaKeva Pischuloi Es HaKeva V'Yir. I'm not getting involved with open up the keva. I'm letting him look at the mace, whatever that means, and show him. And that's what he should do. But he shouldn't get mile on it. Okay. So, but the important part at the beginning, Ad Mosai Mitamer Lahem Rabbi Meir Oimer Kol Oisa Hayoim. What do we call Oisa Hayoim? So L'chera the call Oisa Hayoim is the Yom HaMisa, and Rabbi Shimon Oimer Ad Shlosh Yomim. Rabbi Yehuda oimer mishum betafon ad sheistam agil. So that's something else. So, maybe you can find some support that Ki'ilu, we're working also with the Rameya and besides the Masal Ches. I don't know. The Ram Mishnah Torah is clearly not like that. The Ram Hilchos Ovel, Perik Beis Halacha Ches, Mosai Hu Mitzuva Lehistame Lekoivov, Ad Sheistam Agoylo. Avo Me'acha Shenistam Agoylo, Harihen Kishar Kol HaMeisim, She'im Nistame Bohem Loike. So the Rambam Pashtus there's nothing to do with Yom HaMisa, and it's any time. Ad Mosei Hu Misuva L'Tamei Ad Sheistam Agoylo. There's no cap of saying Yom HaMisa B'dafka. And befrat, maybe the Ram Mishnah Torah is, you see, what's the purpose? What is the mitzvah of tumah for kohen? Is it just there's a mitzvah metamet to machal himself, or l'cheir, you can imagine it's part of the avelus, or the mitzvah is to misastik in the kvur. Okay. No one will say that the kvur, if there's a mitzvah's kvur on Shal Mason, okay, no one will say that no one will say that if the kvur is on the second day, or the third day, or fourth day, that it should be that there's no mitzvah's kvur. The mitzvah's kvur is whenever it happens. You can talk about avelus, but the mitzvah's kvur extends whenever it happens, whenever they koiver. So if the Rambam in Mishnah Torah adds and says in Perik Beis Halacha Vov, Kama chamura mitzvahs evil, shahari hakohen nitchis loy hatuma mipnei koivov kedei sheyisasek imohen v'yisabel. It's a kiyum of avelus and a kiyum of isaskus in the kfur. So as long, whenever the kfur happens to be, that's when he can metame. But after stimus agolo, isaskus is only until the end of the kfur. After stimus agolo, there's no isaskus. So the mitzvah of tumah koivov is noig even after Yom HaMisa, Mishnah Torah, certainly. Even though the tumah is part of Avelus, according to the Ram, it's the same mitzvah in Mishnah Torah also, but it comes in Mishnah Torah from the Chatichat Sayoim, a separate source, and it comes out a very interesting thing. The tumah could be even after Yom Rishon, and Avelus is only Yom Rishon. The Gemara Nazir, Memdal Med Aleph, brings a Maisa Shemeis Oviv Shel Rebbe Yitzchok Beginzuk, and there's a discussion in Rav Menahor and Agos Ramach and Hilchos Ovel there, just exactly what you learn from that Gemara. Okay? And that's not for us, just to know that, the Ramach disagrees with the Rambam. Then it says, next, for his boy, Mishlei Mitzvah, Meseches Mashkin, Meseches Moikot, Mekovas Achim, Bechel. Okay, the Sefer Pashas Zata. Okay, Emo Kohanim, Bachiv Shnischai Bakoyim Litame Lekoivov, Ein Nosh Chayoves boy, Kimi Shehuzer. The Ram learns the tumah, the Isa tumah and the Mitzvah's tumah go hand in hand. Okay, the Seder. Okay, weiter. In Lois Kuf Samach. Kein lo tziva lo v'legoza she is tame, she the tame, avol tineg avelus u birishusa lehitame. Zehete. Okay. The Ramosa in Perik Beis of Hilchos. Over halachas. Avol kohenes hoil v'einon musholos. Alatumo eno mitzvos lehistame lekrovihem elo im rotzu mistamin lo rotzu le mistam. The mice is, let me just do this fast. There are three shittas. On the mitzvah, the Tam of the Kova Mace. The Ram Shita is here, and in Mishnah Torah, the Rach Kohanim Zechorim on mitzvah, the Tam of the Kova. Avol Kohanis, he says, very foolish. Shaloi Huzo Oleho mitumas Mace, Kain Loi Tzivo Lo Vlegoza Shetetame. Mishnah Torah also says, "Mama the one muim bizchorim shehuzu alatuma." Avol the kohenes choyer ve'enu misheres is not chayet. Okay, say that. So, and it's a pash of the claw because the pasuk says, "Liovli the alcohol nashmeis he says, so it means that this one you are not metame to, and this one you are metame to. So that's the pash of the psukim, that the mitzvah of tumah is only on the kohen zochel. Rashi in Bobmetziah Yud Chesam and Aleph, and the Ramban in Teres Odom in Shar Hasoif in Kohanim disagree with the Rambam. And they have another approach. And the Shagisaye, I'm not going to go through all the shittas. I'm just going through the shitta of the Rambam. But just so you should know, the Rashi in Bobmetziah Yud Chesam and Aleph, the Ramban in Teres Odom disagree with the Rambam, and the Shagisaye in the Chadoshos, Simin Ches, is Dan Baruko, and this is not our Indian, and we'll go on. Next. Okay. There is a question about the Chuya and Hutra in general, or what Chuya and Hutra is there's no question that even if it's Hutra or the Chuya, without the kima mitzvah lo yitame, there's no heter, and there's no. In other words, it's only because of lo yitame. The question is it chuya hutra? But without the kima mitzvah, there's nothing to talk about. The whole portion. The Ram in Hilchos Ovel says hatuma in Perik Beis Halachah Tezvav hatuma lekrovihem dechuyehi v'lo hutra. Lo hutra akol lefikoch also lekoyin listame lemeis afilu be'eshem mistame lekrovihem shnei lo yitame enu mistame lacherim imo שלא יאמר הויר ונסתמסי על אובי allocate atzmois ploni. I'll continue to others. The fil koyin shemeis lemeis soch lizoyer lekova b'seif basic force. Kadeshli konis lebasic force. Well, yitama lekrovihem acherim. Rebbe zichron levocha, and a drasha for Yom Zikaron for his father, Ramosh Alevi Soloveitchik, the Gram, who explained that the union of the Chuya in this mitzvah, he says that the Isa Tumul Koyin Lemeis is not Chuta Legamre, but it's Makoimo Imedis. And therefore, another mace is also Latame. And the Kiyum Avelus, it's only the Kiyum Avelus with Tumas Kohanim, which is the Chil of the Kedushas Kohen, Ayadei Tumasai, Lechvoid Mesai. So therefore, he's only allowed to Matame to his Kohen, not to anyone else. So there's no head to Latame the Mesa Acher. So that's the Ram holds Techuya, that the Kiyum Mitzvah is the Matir, L'koyin L'tameh. But I don't know if it's enough Kamino of Techuya and Hutra in the sense that we understand Hutra and Techuya, because it's both Matir, but it means that the Kiyum, it's only because of the Kiyum Mitzvah that there's a Heter, as we mentioned. Now, next mitzvah. Lamed Ches. HaMitzvah Shmona Shloshim. He shetzivo kohen gadol sheisa betula bibsuleha. And there are two psukim here they have to talk about. Vu ishel museo yikoch. That's one pasuk. That's Vayikol Chafal pasuk Gimel, Yud Gimel, and then there's another pasuk which is right afterwards. Almano Gusha v'Chalola Zayna Es Eila Lo Yikoch Ki'im Besula Me'amav Yikochisha. So there are two psukim about Besula. There's one says Vuhu Isha Bibsula Yikoch, and there's another Ki'im Besula Me'amav Yikochisha. And we'll have to see how we work out these psukim. If you'll see, the Ram quotes, Kohen Shisa Besula, Kohen Shisa Besula Besuleo, Vihi, Vuhu Amroi, Vuhu Isha Besula Yikoch. The Ram learns the mitzvah for the first one. We'll see about that in mitzvah. But the two psukim, the Ram learns the mitzvah for the first one. We'll see as we go on, believe that. The door poshut that there's an Isa Aseh for the Kohen to marry a Bu'ula. And that's the Mon Ksuvas, which the Ram is going to quote soon. Oise hoye Rabbi Akiva mamzer afilu mechayve lavim. Mechayve lavim means an Isa Aseh. Because you can only have mamzeres if you violate Nisa. If you're not Mekayim a mitzvah, there's no mamzeres. So since Rabbi Akiva made mamzeres from Chai B'Lavim, I mean from Isa Aseh, from the Aseh of Pusula Kohen Gadol, Bula. So there's mamzeres. So it means that there's an Isa Aseh, otherwise it couldn't be mamzeres. Now, that's what we have. So a mamzer is going to be soon. So l'cheira, there's a mitzvah Aseh, according to the Rambam, and an Isa Aseh. So the Rambam starts the mitzvah, he should see v'koyin sheyisa b'sula b'bsuleha. Shuta, this is a mitzvah Aseh from the koyin Gdol lehinose l'bsula. Okay, and that is the way. If you read the pshat and in the way the Arabic goes over here, it's you're supposed to do something. That's an amount. It's an assumption. And at the end of this, he has a discussion. He talks in the middle about the Gemara and Ksuvas, but afterwards he says, at the end of his words, he says, "Hine kvar izboye shuhu mitzvah aseh v'omroi gam kein hu mitzvah al habesula," which means he's supposed to do something. So the Ram seems to have, he quotes Gemara Ksuvas, which in Isa say, and before and afterwards, he clearly saying there's a kiyum aseh or mitzvah, something to do with kum v'aseh. That's also mashma the prote mitzvahs in Hilchos Yisui Bia. She'isa koyin Gdol besula bin naroi seha. He's supposed to do something. Then he'll face is not only an aseh, a kiyum aseh, there's an Isa say, because the Ram in Isui Bia, Perek Yud Zayin, Aloch Yud Gimel, mitzvah say al koyin Gdol she'isa nar b'sula, which the bager te'ose olav, v'hu isha b'b'sela, v'hu isha b'b'sula yikoch. And Hilchos Ishus in Perek Aleph Aloch Ches, v'yesh she'isa b'yoson b'aseh, means it is aseh, v'eino mechayve lavim, u'shleishehem, mechlal shenem avu isha b'selo yikoch, atolomek she'eino b'sula lo yikoch, v'lav abo mechlal aseh aseh. And it's also, you would say, from the Sefer in Parshas Emo, Parsha Beis Halochavov, Ki im besula melamed shuhu mitzvah ala psula. The Ramban also learns there's a mitzvah say of a kiyum, of a mekum vaseh, and there's an isa. But he learns v'hu isha b'bsula yikoch is an isa say, the opposite of the Ram, that's a kiyum say. And he goes ki im b'sula me'am of yikoch is an isa say. Excuse me. Ki b'sul me'amav is a kiyum aseh. According to the Rambam, would be the opposite. But according to the Ramban, the mitzvah say is v'hu ish. Excuse me. The isa say is v'hu ish of himself yikoch is an isa say, and the kiyum aseh is ki'im b'sula me'amov yikach isha. This is the Ramban in Chumash. So he's learning. And VHU is an Isa Bula. VHU lava b'mochal Aseh. V'achar kein hizi b'lav al amona v'apsulois. V'yom akim b'sulam am v'yikah yichishlo tzavois olov she'yikocheno. So the second is a kiyum Aseh, and the first is an Isa Aseh. V'zeh she'omu Rabbi Seinu muzel al amona u'mitzuva al b'sula. V'kach shonu b'teres kohanim ki'im b'sula me'amed shu mitzuva al b'sula. But the teres kohanim is learning out from the second pasuk. That is the kiyum Aseh. Dvavrom also is working that there's a kiyum Aseh and there's an Isa Aseh. The Dvavrom in Charles Chuvas Dvavrom Chelik Beis Simen Lamed Vov Ela Efshe the Kavanosim he the Mitzvah Aseh Miuchedes al Kohen Gadol Shetehei Lo Isha Tomid Kedichsiv Ki'im Besula Me'amov Yikach Isha V'Yaminu B'Teres Kohanim Malamed Shu Mitzuva Ala Besula. V'Hainu the Mitzvah Aseh Miuchedes Olov Shikach Isha Besula V'Lo Yamod Li'olam B'Lo Isha V'Kachos Ramban Lehedi Pushal HaTorah. So that's what he learns. And the Azer Yitzchok in Siman Samachay says, quotes this Rambam in Mishnah Torah in Hilchos Yisui Bia, Perek Yudzayin Halachat Zayin, Kohen Gadol Shenosa Be'ula, Eino Loike. Aber moitzi beget nosa bogeres oimukas eitz harize yikayim. So he says, what's the difference between marrying a bula that yichayev legaresh and mukas eitz and bogeres that yochol lekayim? So he says, because there's a kiyum Aseh of marrying a basula, and a person who marries a mukas eitz or bogeres, which were not bulos yet, is mevatel Aseh l'nosan basula. But for bittul Aseh, we're not moitzi liisha. But there's no Isa Aseh. Okay. So since he married her already, it's only bittul Aseh, so we don't make a boss. But in Be'ula, we're mechayiv into Megarisha. I just tell you that you see, you look at the pasuk, and so the Ram probably learns. It says, "Vu isha b'selo yikoch." It says, "Almono ugrusha v'chalola zoino es elo yikoch ki im." See this. The Ramban learns. Excuse me. The Ramban learns ki im b'sula. It means he shouldn't do this. But what should he do? He should marry a besula. We have to know why the Ram learns v'isha b'selo yikoch is the mitzvah say, and the lav Abo Mechalazeh is Kim Besulam Yikal Yishuv. That's what the Ram learns. We have to also understand what this mitzvah is. What is he supposed to do? Is it there's a mitzvah say, the same way there's a mitzvah Makadosh and Isha, there's a mitzvah for Kohen Gadol to marry a psula? Because we don't find any halachas that force a Kohen Gadol to get married. We don't know exactly what happened over here. The Mishnah Melech takes a double portion, not like this, that the mitzvah is only Nisa say. Mishnah Melech in the Chosishas Perek Avol Ches v'chein hu isha b'sara yikoch einoi muzer a Kohen Gadol likach isha yoyse mishar adam v'im lo nosa isha pshita shali bitul aseh zo v'dafka b'yoyim atzoyim. So because it has to, it's a ma'akiv in the it's ma'akiv b'li Yom Kippurim, but there's no mitzvah. That's what he learns. Rambam Pash is reading here that there's a mitzvah. The question is, how do you learn this? The psukim, according to the Rambam, that's what happens. The first pasuk is the kiyum aseh, and the second pasuk is aseh. Now, Obil zeh kshoy Kohen Gadol bo al bilti psula shehasu aloi biaseh. So what does it mean besula besuleha? So it means that it means you need kol psulim. And that's what he's mean. Merame is that he has to be dafka naira. And a Bulgaris doesn't have kol psulim. That's mon yivomis anun tes. Omer Aleph Tano Rabbanon Vu Isha B'Sulel Yikoch Prat LeBulgaris Shekol Loi B'Sulel Div Rameya Rabbi Loza Rabbi Shimon Machshir Bulgaris Michael Miflege Meisova B'Sula Afilu Mixes B'Sulin, and the Chum and he learns the opposite way. That's called B'Sulel. Okay, the same. And the Ram learns like a Meya, Pasuk Meya. That's the Rambam in Perek Yud Zayin Aloch Yud Gimel Mitzvah Se'al Kohen Chisa Nar B'Sulo K'Shidi Boge Te'ose Olov V'hu Isha B'B'Sulei Yikoch Isha V'Loi Ktano B'Sulei V'Loi Begeres V'Chule. And that's the Rambam in the beginning of Hilchos Yisui Biyah, that the mitzvah say is only on a naira. Sheyisa Kohen Gadol B'Sula bin Naro Yiseho, because that's the type of B'Sula you need. B'Sula B'Suleho. Okay, next. So in the Ramban again, the Ramban learns that Isa Aseh is for who Isha B'Sela Yikoch, because the pasuk Achov is talking about Isurim. Almono Gusha V'Chalola V'Zoyna Es Elo Yikoch, and that's also like this. And Ki Im, it's the opposite. The pasuk of Rishon comes after Rishima of Lavin, because the Lavin before, in the pasuk before, Alma Gusha Seilu Yikoch, כי אם בסורה so that's the so the Ramban, you understand it's ki im besula ma'amav yikach isha that he shouldn't do this but he should do that. And the Ram, we don't understand the ki im. We don't understand really what's going on. Okay. The important thing, and this is a arichas that I don't want to go into now, and it's an arichas in general, Rambam. You see, what the Ram is doing over here is going back and forth. He starts with a mitzvah of doing something. Siva koyin sheisa besula bid busalel v'amoy v'lish besel yikoch ubebei amu oy also adam Rabbi Kiva mamze mechavi Aseh uberu zeh shel kishoy koyin god the bar buti besula shehi asula loy be'aseh. So he says before shehi Aseh shasher says slain lava bo mechal Aseh hine kva his boy Shehu mitzvah. I don't understand what that means. So this is a discussion in general, Rambam. And what I think, if you learn that the Rambam only has, so you can either say that everything is an Aseh, which you can take that point, and there's no Kiyum Aseh, or you can say that a lava b'machal Aseh, according to the Rambam, means that since you're supposed to do X, there's an Easter to do Y. But only because you're supposed to do X, you marry a Basula. So then it comes out, the Rambam is proving that there's a mitzvah say from the Aseh. And lava bo machal aseh means that there is a mitzvah say. But there's an Aseh also. Okay. That you can see in the Aseh Kufman Beis, the Ram is very clear, I think, over there, that he talks about a Isa, and he says what you're supposed to do afterwards. Ki'ilu, that he's proven that. And the question is that, if you accept that approach, then you're okay. If not, then you have to understand the Ram Kufman Beis. And that's not for us now because we're learning this mitzvah. Mitzvah Shem, next week we'll pick up the next mitzvah. Maybe a few more. Okay? Atzlocha. Freilich Chanukah.